As a child, I was always very active, very talkative. I had lots of friends, so those things were never a problem for me. But the only problem was when my teachers or my parents used to tell me off about me being distracted or distractive to my colleagues, and also being very impulsive at times. Not until I was 19 years old, I figured out that there could be something wrong with me, and something wrong with my brain even. And that was through a conversation I had with a friend of mine. At the time, he was diagnosed with ADHD. He was a bit older than me. He was 20 actually. And at that time, I didn't even know what ADHD was. So I started asking him lots of questions. He was a bit embarrassed in the beginning, but I was just confused. I asked him lots of questions. And as we were talking, I was just kind of like, oh, I have that. Oh, I struggle with that as well. And I started to think, wow, maybe I have that as well. So I might get it checked out. So I spoke to my mum and decided that we should book an appointment with the doctor. And first professional that I saw was a psychiatrist. After him asking me over 100 questions, he gave me the final diagnosis and said, yes, you do have ADHD. And I was like, okay. So he prescribed me Ritalin, and I took it for 2 months. And due to many ups and downs regarding my mood, I decided to go back and say, this is not working for me. And then they prescribed me Concerta, which is a more developed, more advanced type of medicine, which delivers the chemicals into the bloodstream bit by bit, if I still remember right. And that seemed to be working much better than Ritalin, but at the same time, I was always feeling that I was under the effect of some kind of really strong drugs, like I was. So I decided to stop taking them. Of course, things didn't get better from then, and what I mean by that is that I was having trouble at school, even during normal conversations. At that time, I wasn't at school, but I was at uni. I was having trouble listening and paying attention to lectures like I always was, but I was more aware that I was actually having trouble with that. Instead of ignoring that I wasn't paying attention, I was actually really starting to get worried about that. And even talking to friends, I used to get distracted and stop paying attention to the conversation, things like that, and I became impulsive, especially with shopping, which is still a problem. I have to be careful with that. But yeah, those things that just really got in the way. And looking back at the time, I asked myself, why did it take so long for me to get some help or even to be aware of this condition? And I think is partly because of society stigmas and my own family as well. I think at the time I used to arrive home and say that I was struggling with something, and I think the first response that I would get from my parents would be, you have to try harder. You've been naughty, you've been too talkative, and you don't stop moving about, so you have to try harder, behave yourself. And at the time I really don't blame them, because I don't think they had any understanding of this condition. So looking back, I believe that a good way that the schools and parents could help their children is by becoming more aware of this condition, and by becoming more aware they can provide a better support to them. And yeah, like I said, the psychiatrist was one of the types of support that I believe someone can receive through the prescription of medicines. But I don't think that's the only way. I think there are other ways in which other professionals can help someone getting better, or rather than saying getting better, I would say how to cope with this condition. For me, it was really helpful to later on in life meet up with a psychologist, and we sat down and we discussed a few things, such as strategies on how to cope and how to become less impulsive, and or how to get past page 2 in a book without forgetting what you read on page 1, for example, and just more tips, more techniques that people can learn, and that would be really helpful.